let's discuss the Ketoret. Ketoret is very powerful, very holy, very special. And the Medrash says a Ketoret is an acronym for 4 Hebrew words. And that is, the Medrash Tanchuma says that Ketoret is Kedusha, holiness, the Kuf. Tes is Tara, purity. Reish, Rachamim, mercy. It evokes Hashem's mercy. In time of a plague, the incense has the power to evoke Hashem's mercy. And the Tav is Tikva, hope. It gives hope. And the Zohar tells unbelievable stories how cities that were in danger and the rabbi put out the Ketoret, and with the incense, the power of the incense, stopped the plague. The question is, what's the difference between the sacrifices and the Ketoret, the incense? The incense gave off incense, the sense of smell. But the sacrifices also, it says reach nichoyach, the smell of the sacrifice. What's the difference between sacrifices and the incense? Now, the sacrifices are edibles. Animals you can eat, food, even the flour, it's all edibles, the birds. Now, edibles also have a scent. Like a fruit has not only does it taste good, like an estrog, it tastes good, but it also has a good scent. The spices, however, the 11 ingredients that were used for the spices, before you burn them, they have no scent. It's hard. Nothing. It doesn't have any scent. The scent is when you burn it, and then you burn the incense, then it gives off a scent. But on its own, it's hard, it's inedible. But when you burn it, then it has the true scent. Then it becomes the true perfume, true scent, most powerful scent. So the difference is that the sacrifices are there to separate the good from the bad, to achieve an atonement, to separate away the accusations against the person. From the power of the sacrifice, you remove the bad and you select the good. The power of the incense is not just to select the bad from the good, but to transform, to change, to take these hard, inedible, have no odor, and to transform it into a delicious scent. And one of the ingredients is the chalvana, which actually has a very bad scent on its own. But when you mix it with the others, it actually adds to the good scent. Every good perfume has to have something in there, one of the ingredients that has actually a very horrible odor. But when you put it all together, it's a delicious aroma. It has a beautiful aroma. So it's like the difference between food and medicine. Food is edible. Food is delicious. Food has a taste, has a smell. Some of it has a smell, a good aroma. But it's all edible things. A medicine is when food no longer functions. You're sick. Part of you is sick. One of the organs is sick. You're not responding to food. Food generally is the best medicine. That's how you keep healthy. You eat healthy. As long as you're healthy. What if you're not healthy? One of your organs is not healthy. Then food won't help you. On the contrary, food will make it even worse. You need a medicine. You need a drug. Herbs. You need something powerful that will evoke, that will touch and tap into the deeper place and trigger a healing. So it's like a difference between the sense of smell, the scent, and the food. The food affects the body-soul connection. It keeps the soul connected to the body and the body connected to the soul. But when a person, let's say, faints, when you fainted, food is not going to help you. But you put a powerful smell, it will wake up the person. Because the smell reaches back into the soul itself, into the depth of the soul, and it revives the soul, it reawakens the soul, and it reawakens your life. So medicine and the scent, the Ketoret, the incense, is so much more powerful. Can't compare. Food also has a smell. When you smell good food, it makes you hungry, it whets your appetite, it gets your juices flowing. You smell just the scent of food already helps you with your appetite. It's all part of the eating experience, not just the eating. It's the smell of the food, the look of the food. It's all your senses are involved. But nevertheless, it's limited. It's limited to the food. It's external. It's limited to the food, which could only help you if you're healthy, and it helps you strengthen your body-soul connection and separate the good from the bad. The bad part of the food is evacuated and the good part is extracted. The incense is something else entirely. Smell, the sense of smell, is not something of the body. It's something that the soul enjoys. It's not a bodily pleasure. It's not a physical pleasure. It's a very deep pleasure. Something that the soul, a pleasure of the soul, and it evokes something very deep within the soul, just like medicine. That's what's called samim. There's two types of samim. There's a sam that's poison, sam amavis. There's herbs and scents that can kill you. And there's sam achayim, life. It gives you life. It saves your life. It can save your life. It can trigger your life. It can revive you. But that's the power of the Ketoret. So it's like a difference between the tzaddik and the Baal Tshuva. The tzaddik is engaged in holiness, Torah, mitzvah, and he separates himself from anything negative. And the sacrifices bring him closer to Hashem, strengthen that connection. But he has to reject the evil, the ra, the negativity. He has to separate and reject it. The Baal Tshuva, however, has the ability to take something that's hard, odorless, you can't eat it, you can't, but by offering the incense, you have the power to transform that hard herb, that hard thing, to make it into the most delicious, most pleasing aroma that could literally revive you and restore your life. So it's the transformation of the negative into the positive. That's why he says, samim, you have different types of incense. You have an incense that kills you. The first incense, Nadav and Avihu, the first day, first dedication of the tabernacle, it killed him. Then you have the samim, after the Korach rebellion, when the Jewish people rebelled, and they started dying in a plague, and Moshe tells Aaron, quickly go, take the fire pan and offer the incense, and that saved the Jewish people. And where did Moshe learn this from? Because the Talmud says in Tractate Shabbos that by the giving of the Torah, each angel gave Moshe a gift. The angel of death gave Moshe a gift. He taught him the secret of the incense. That when there's a plague, if you offer the incense, it will save you, it can save your life. It can revive your life, save your life. And that's what they did. Aaron went around with the pan and the plague stopped. Where did he learn this from? Hashem never told him. But he learned this from the angel of death himself. And that's why you have this parsha, the parsha that Hashem teaches Moshe. Hashem told Moshe that every day offer the incense, and that will stop death, and that will stop plagues, and that will help you. And then you have what the angel of death taught Moshe. What's the difference between the two? Because everything in this world has even the evil has to have some spark of goodness. Hashem creates everything. Not only Hashem creates the good in the world, the good energy, the positive energy, Hashem also creates the negative energy. But Hashem just gives it enough energy, enough of a spark just to sustain itself. That's it, not more. It's very limited. Just to enable it to exist. Because Hashem despises evil. Hashem hates evil. But Hashem, there's a purpose for evil. So therefore Hashem creates it. But like Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, like he turns his nose. Like you give something to someone you hate. You throw it behind your back. You can't even face him. But you just throw it to him. So Hashem gives them the bare minimum. He has to give them some life. You have to give them something. Otherwise they couldn't exist. So you have to have something to hang on to. So you have to give them some spark, some life, some energy. But the bare minimum. And Hashem is teaching us, taught Moshe, how do you deal with this negativity, with this death, with this negative energy? He taught him the incense. The incense is what protects us from this negativity, from the evil. But then you have the evil and negativity that a person adds to Hashem's creation. It's one thing Hashem created us and He created evil. But then when we feed the evil and we nourish the evil and we nurture the evil and we choose evil, we give it such life, we add so much life to it. So how do you deal with that evil, that negativity? And that's the secret that the angel of death taught Moshe, that through the incense you have the power to also change and to transform even that evil. Now, what's the difference between sacrifice and Ketoret? The word sacrifice in Hebrew, korban, comes from the word kiruv, to come close, to draw close. Dveikut, you bring close together. Ketoret comes from the root word to bind, to tie. Like v'nafshoy kshura b'nafshoy. It's a much deeper connection than just dveikut. Dveikut is I take two separate things and I bring them together. Like I tie with a girdle, I tie my clothes to my skin. So it's dveikut. They're clinging to each other, but it's two separate things. Hitkashrut, Ketoret comes from the word litkasher, to bind. Binding is like my soul is bound to my soul. Nafshei kshura b'nafsh. My soul is bound to its soul. My soul is so connected as one, inseparable. So it shows a connection that's inseparable. And that's the difference between the Ketoret and the carbon. Where was the carbon offered? In the outer courtyard, the outer altar. Where was the incense offered? In the inner, inside the temple, in the inner altar. The outer altar was done in the public. Incense was done while the kohen was alone. Not even an angel could be there, be present when he offers the incense. Alone, just you and Hashem. So the difference between the inner altar and the outer altar, the altar represents the heart. But within the heart, we have the superficial level of the heart, our consciousness, conscious level of the heart. But then you have the deeper level of the heart, the inner altar, the subconscious, the depth of the heart. The difference between the inner and the outer is that the outer is a love which, in a way, you have to manufacture the love. It's not a natural love. It's something that you have to work on. Like it says, love Hashem ki hu chayecha, because He's your life. Naturally, we don't love Hashem. Naturally, we love money, power, fame, pleasure, indulgence, lust, cravings, fun. That's what we are attracted to, naturally. How do you develop a love for Hashem? It's something you have to work on. It's very hard. It's hard work. You have to meditate very deeply and think about it very deeply and reflect that Hashem is your life. Once you realize Hashem is your life, and then you realize, what do you want in life? You want life. What are you looking for in life? Life, vitality, passion, excitement, thrill, fun, real life. You want to feel alive. Well, how are you going to feel alive? Once you realize that the only true life, only is the source of life, Hashem. So if you plug into Hashem, you'll become alive, like plugging in. You plug in to the electrical socket, to the source, to the generator, you'll come alive. Otherwise, you're dead. So this is something that you have to almost like force. You have to create. It's almost man-made. And even then, it only affects your consciousness, your external. There hasn't been a transformation. It's a struggle. Naturally, I'm attracted to materialism. I have to struggle and figure out and realize and become aware that it's the intangible, what I don't see, what I can't see, and that's reality, and that's life, and that's the source of life, and that should be my focus, and that I should spend my time and my energy on, and sacrifice the superficial things, the skin-deep things, and really connect with what's deeper. It's a struggle, and it's only external. That's the carbon. So even when you come close, you're close. Dveikut, you're attached, but it's two separate things that are attached. You remain two separate things that are attached. It's almost like you forced yourself to focus, to pay attention, and to become attached to godliness. But then you have the inner heart. The inner heart is where the neshama feels inseparable. The connection, there can't be anything else. There is nothing else. You just really connect with Hashem. You feel that inner connection with Hashem. It's not external. It's subconscious. And therefore completely transforms it. Completely transforms you. The loving Hashem because He's your life doesn't transform you. It gives you the power and the strength to draw close to Hashem. To sacrifice. Carbon is a sacrifice. So you sacrifice the animal, the animalistic part of the animal, and you elevate the pleasure, the blood to Hashem. You focus your blood and your passion and your pleasure and your excitement to Hashem. And you, by burning the physical animal, and then you elevate it. So you're separating. It's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing the animal. You're giving up the animal, and you're coming close to Hashem. The incense, however, the inner altar, you sense the reality of Hashem. All there is Hashem. There is nothing else. There is no other reality. there is no other reality besides Hashem, then there is nothing else. Then it's no longer a struggle. I don't know, it's not, I'm connecting two separate things. There are no two separate things. All there is Hashem, there is nothing else. There's only one. All there is Hashem, there is no other reality. So it's not I'm connecting myself to Hashem. There is no I, there is no ego. You reach a level of egolessness. Once you reach a level of egolessness, there is no ego, there is no I, there is no separation. All there is Hashem. And then you achieve complete transformation. Then you transform the negative into positive. The hard, no odor, no smell, and you transform it into the most pleasing odor. You take the chelbana and you transform it into the most pleasing odor. Because on the level, the external level, the mizbeach, the outer mizbeach, so you have light and you have darkness. The light can push away the darkness, but it can't change the darkness. It's opposites. So the light causes me to push away the darkness and to embrace the light. So I burn the animal and I offer the animal. I offer the blood to Hashem and the pleasure, the fat, and I turn the animal into, I consume it. And it's transformed into a sacrifice, elevated, it goes up. But I can't transform, I can't change the darkness itself. I can just separate light from the darkness. But the Ketoret has the power to transform, total transformation. I'm completely transformed because I become egoless and inseparable. And then he says, at the end of the parsha that we read, it says like it's written in your Torah, and it says at the end of that parsha, and then after you offer the incense, then Aaron would light the candles, light the menorah. So we have 3 levels of fire. First is the fire on the outer altar. Then we have the fire on the inner altar. And then we have the higher level, which is the candle, the candelabra. 3 stages. First the outer altar, then the inner altar, and then the lighting of the candle. What's the difference? There's a difference between fire and a candle. Fire burns, but it doesn't give off light. You can't use a bonfire for light. You use a bonfire for heat, but you don't use it for light. For light, you need a candle, a suitable wick, a suitable oil, a suitable material that burns steadily, that sheds a lot of light. Fire burns, but it doesn't give off light. It's too unstable. Firstly, fire struggles to grab hold. The object resists the fire. The object is something physical that wants to extend and continue its existence. Comes along the fire and wants to burn it, wants to destroy it, remove its existence. So it's a fight. The fire is fighting. That's why fire cackles, and it's a whole fight between the fire and the physical and the material. The fire wants to release the energy and wants to get to the energy and transform the physical into the energy. The physical wants to continue its existence. And even once the fire does take hold, but it's a fire, it's not a flame. It's a fire, it's constantly fighting. The thicker, the bigger the existence, it's constantly, slowly but surely, it's consuming the object. But it's going against the nature of the object. The nature of the object is it wants to continue its existence, extend existence. It's a big piece of existence, a big chunk of existence. And here you're trying to consume it, to remove its existence, transform it into energy, release the energy and get rid of the physical till you reduce to ashes. So it's a fight. That's why it's constantly fire jumps and it's jumping and it's not steady. It's not a light. It's fire jumping up and down, and it's a fight, it's a struggle. So even when the fire is winning the struggle, but nevertheless it's like resisting. And then you have a flame. A flame is completely natural. Flame is calm, steady, gives off light. Everything is burnt, the wick is burning, the oil is burning, and it gives off a beautiful, beautiful light. So what does this all represent? The outer altar, the inner altar, and the lighting of the candelabra, the menorah. So it's like the analogy of a child, a son, child, who left his home and lives far away. But imagine the olden days, no Zoom, no phones, no telegrams. People were cut off for years from each other. Imagine the yearning that the child had for his parents. It's a very powerful yearning. It's like a fiery, passionate yearning because of the separation. That's why there's this very powerful yearning towards his parents, which in a way unifies him with his parents. The longing and the yearning and the desire to be together, and missing his parents, and just that feeling, that fiery love towards his parents, precisely because he's separated. But then take it a step further. You have someone who's been away from his parents for a long time, but he's also got involved. Wherever he is, he got involved. He's so involved in his life that he doesn't even have time to think about his parents. He forgot about his parents, forgot about his home. A prince forgot that he's coming from the royal palace. He's working in the farm. He's like with all the other farmers. Forgot about his origins. Now he has to struggle to remember, to think about, to find time and to struggle and to remember where he comes from, who he really is, prince, royalty. Remind himself that he comes from the palace, and to awaken that he's yearning for his parents. Otherwise he's so immersed in his life as a hick, he doesn't even remember where, what, when. So that's like a difference in the outer altar and the inner altar. The outer altar, you're on the outside. You're disconnected. Your consciousness is not conscious of godliness. It's not your reality. Your conscious is of the physical, the material, enjoyment, pleasure, fun. You're not conscious of godliness, anything deep, subtle. It's not your reality. You're interfacing with the body, you're interfacing with the physical, with the material world around you. That's what you see, and that's what you smell, that's what you taste and touch, and that's your reality. That's what you're aware of. That's the sum total of your awareness. So it's a tremendous struggle. You have to light a fire, you have to struggle. You have to love Hashem because He's your life. You have to struggle and try to remember, remind yourself that Hashem is your life. And if you're looking for life, you have to connect to the source of life. And just focusing on Hashem because you're on the outside. You're separate, you're apart. And you have to try to create a devekut, a connection, a kiruv, carbon, a closeness. That's not there. You don't feel it. You're so out of it. That's the sacrifice. You're the animal. Take the animal and try to make the animal holy and try to elevate. If the sacrifice, it's a struggle. Like fire. In order for something to burn, something has to give. You have to be ready to sacrifice. If the wick is going to remain, if the wood is going to remain a wood, it's not giving, you can't burn anything. Something has to give. You have to be ready to sacrifice. It's hard work. To come close to Hashem, something has to sacrifice, something has to give, and you have to bring two things that are distant, and maybe even opposites, because you're in a different world. You're living a different reality. Your consciousness is interfacing and engaged and involved with human consciousness with the physical material. That's what you're responding to. You're not responding to godliness, the holiness, the godliness. So you have to fight. It's a struggle to take the animal and turn it into kachim, into something holy, into something sacred, and offer it on the altar, and make the fire. The fire should consume it and transform the animal into the fire, release the energy. It's a sacrifice. It's the external. So you're so far away and you're so out of it that you have to just to remind yourself and to bring yourself close, to come close and to remind yourself of your origin and your source, that you should feel a closeness to Hashem. But then you have the inner altar. The inner altar, you don't have to struggle. It's the prince with the son who knows clearly who he is. He remembers clearly that he's the prince. He's royalty. He never forgot that. Can't forget that. He's not a hick. That's his reality. But he has a fiery love for Hashem because he's away. He's far away from the king. But it's like the incense. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to force yourself. You don't have to bring two things that are separate. You know that you're the child. You know that you're the prince. You know that you're close. But physically, you're so distant that you feel a yearning, an intense yearning. But then there is when the child actually comes home and is standing right next to his parent, right next to the king, right next to his father. The prince is right there. You don't feel that passionate, intense, fiery Love, because it's here. I'm standing right next to my Father. You don't feel that fiery yearning and passionate, fiery love because I'm satisfied. I'm here. But in a way, the love is even deeper. It's just very quiet. You're one with you're one with the king. The prince is one with the king, standing right next to the king. But it's a quiet love. It's not this fiery, yearning, passionate, because you're not distant. You're right here. You're in the palace. You're right next to your Father. But the love is much deeper. The connection is much deeper. That's like the flame. That's the candelabra. That's lighting the menorah. There's no fire. It's not like fiery and it's jumping and you're burning. No burning, but a very nice flame that gives off light. You're so unified. The fire and the wick and the oil, everything works totally harmoniously together. And it gives off tremendous light. That's the highest level. That's what we call in Hasidus, the difference between the outer altar is like a nefesh, ruach, and the neshama. It's like the outer, that's the consciousness. That's the interface with the body, our emotions, our intellectual awareness. And that's all our conscious level. That's the world of our conscious level. Then you have the inner altar, which is like the world, the inner heart, which is like chaya, level of chaya. Like the tzaddik, which is spiritual, which is one, a kashrut, greater than dveikut, like inseparable. Also a fire, you're burning. But it's a different fire. It's a fire which is in the inside, inner fire. You don't have to work and force and create. It's not external, mechanical, it's natural. You feel this passionate, fiery yearning for Hashem because you feel the closeness. The inseparable from being inseparable. And then you have the menorah. Then comes lighting the menorah, which is Yechidah Shevanef, where a Yid is one with Hashem. You're right with Hashem. And then you give off a calm, gentle, beautiful, steady light. There's no fighting, there's no struggle, there's no distance. Hashem is with me right here, right now. Every fiber of my being, every bone in my body, my core, my essence, I'm with Hashem. Every part of me, and it gives off beautiful light. And that's like the studying of Torah. When you study Torah, you are one with Hashem. You're with the King. You're learning, and Hashem is sitting right with you, learning with you. You're learning the same thing Hashem is learning. Your mind becomes one with the mind of Hashem, the infinite. That's the menorah. Yechidah Shevanefesh, the essence of it. Now, the question we were going to discuss is why the incense was 11 ingredients. We know that everything in holiness is 10. Hashem created the world with 10 utterances. You have a 10 sfirot, 10 commandments. A minyan is 10. Everything in holiness is 10. So how do we get here? Suddenly we get 11. Actually, Yud Aleph, the letters Yud Aleph, if you spell out Yud Aleph, which is 11, Yud Vav Daled, Aleph, Lamed Fei, it's 131. The numerical value of Samuel, which is the Samach Mem, the angel of death, the Satan. So 11 represents the Klippa, the negative side, the negative. Positive. In holiness, you have 10. When it comes to the negative, you have the 11 crowns of impurity. That's like Samim is Samach Mem. That's Samuel. That's the head. We don't even want to say his name, so we just say Samach Mem. The angel of death, the Satan, the evil inclination. That's the ultimate king of evil, the devil. And that's why we find the 11 curses. At the end of the Torah in Deuteronomy, Hashem tells them, you're going to stand on Mount Abel. Stand on Mount Gerizim, Mount Abel. When you curse, you're going to turn to Mount Abel. There were 11 curses. 11 is associated with curse. We also find the coverings of the tabernacle. You had different layers. You had 3 different coverings. Some say 4 coverings. First covering was made up of 10. All made up of wool, dyed different colors. But wool from the sheep. And that you had 10. They were sewn together. So you had 10 curtains. Then you had the covering made of goat skin, and that you had 11. So goat skin, to work the skin of an animal, you have to work in a bursiki. It's a very harsh, labor-intensive, it smells horrible. To take that leather, the hide of the animal, to turn it into something fine, you have to work with it in a very unpleasant environment. So that represents the klipa, the negative. You're working the skin. You have to work the skin in a very negative, unpleasant environment. Versus the wool is something that you shear and you weave, and you spin and then you weave, and so that's all pleasant. That's 10. Holiness is 10. The opposite of holiness is 11. Why? Why the difference between Kalipa and Kedusha, holiness and Kedusha? Because the definition of holiness is, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, the first part of the Tanya, chapter 6, that it's nullified to Hashem. Anything that's nullified to Hashem, it's egoless, is holy. What's the definition of Kalipa, of the negative energy, opposite of holiness? Anything that's not nullified, it's not egoless. It's egotistical. It's separate and apart. Everything that exists has a spark, has a holy spark. But in holiness, holiness is a vessel for the holy spark, is a vehicle, a vessel. It could receive it, it could absorb it. It could become unified with the holiness. It receives the holiness and it internalizes the holiness. And that's why it's humbled by the holiness. Anything that's holy senses holiness, senses the spark, senses godliness, and therefore is humbled by it, is inspired by it, internalizes it, integrates it into its being, into its existence, and therefore it transforms it, it changes it. So therefore, it becomes like a body and a soul. They're inseparable. So the holiness, the holy spark, and the 10 are inseparable. That's why you have 10. Klippa, however, also has to have a holy spark. But it's not a vessel for holiness. It's not a vehicle for holiness. It doesn't internalize the holiness. It can't receive or absorb the holiness. It can't integrate it. It remains aloof, above, a kesed, a crown. And that's why you have 11 crowns, the 11th. It doesn't become part of the 10. It becomes separate. It's separate. Like it says in today's Chumash, that Hashem says when the spies scouted Eretz Yisrael, it says Hashem sar tzilam elem. Hashem removed the shade from them, the protector from them. In other words, everything in this world has a tzel, has something that's protecting it, which is the godly spark. That's what brings it into existence. That's what sustains it. That's what preserves it. Hashem removed the godly spark, therefore there was nothing there. They were ready to collapse. But it's separate from them. It's apart from them. It's like a tzel. It's like a shadow. It's above them. It hovers over them. They cannot internalize it. They can't integrate. Which was why Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav, and it wasn't a good idea, because he wanted to bless Esav because he thought he's going to give him, shower him with all these powerful blessings, the most powerful blessings in the Torah, the blessings of the Yitin Lecha. So the power of holiness will overwhelm all the negativity and will transform and change Esav, trigger a complete change and transformation of Esav. The problem was that Esav wasn't a vessel, Esav wasn't a vehicle. Mashiach will come, but not now. Esav wasn't a vehicle because he was so arrogant. He was Kalipa, he was egotistical and arrogant. So if any blessings he would have received would have backfired. It's like, well, when is food beneficial for you? If you eat it, if you chew it, digest it, internalize it, then you can extract anything that's good, expel, evacuate all what can't be absorbed in the body. But imagine you could take the best food in the world, most nutritious, the best food in the world. But instead of eating it, you just swallow it whole. Not only isn't it going to do anything for you, it's going to give you a stomachache. It's going to completely mess you up. It's going to mess up your whole system. It's going to destroy you, disturb you. It's not going to help you. So giving all these powerful blessings to Esau would have backfired, because he would have just received it. It would have only fueled his arrogance. Instead of changing him, triggering a change, a transformation, instead of humbling him, breaking his heart and becoming more humble and inspired and more godly and good and kind and decent and moral and ethical and spiritual and wholesome, contrary, he would have become more arrogant, more impossibly arrogant, if that would even be possible. That's why Yaakov had to receive the blessings. Yaakov was holiness. Yaakov could receive the blessings. Yaakov could absorb the blessings. Yaakov could internalize the blessings. He could integrate the blessings. He could change him and transform him. And then eventually we're going to get to Esau, like our generation, the last generation, the transitional generation, the last generation of exile, the first generation of redemption. As the Rebbe would always remind us, began, the Rebbe became Rebbe, the seventh beginning of the 7th generation. Rebbe became Rebbe, his full day as Rebbe, on the 11th day, Yud Aleph Shvat, the 11th month, Shvat, in the 11th year, Tafshin Yud Aleph, 1951, 11, 11, 11. Because our generation, after 3,800 years of Yiddishkeit, and after 3,333 years of Torah, so we have elevated all of the sparks, and now we have the ability to transform Esav. And that's the mission of the Ketoret. The mission of the Ketoret is, these sacrifices could only elevate what's holy, or at least what has the potential to become holy. Take a kosher animal and transform it into a sacrifice, into a sacred object that becomes holy, and then offering it or burning it on the altar. So you're elevating it, you're transforming it. But everything had to be kosher. All the ingredients had to be kosher. Versus the spices, the incense, one of the ingredients was actually the blood of a non-kosher animal. Myrrh, musk. The blood of a non-kosher animal, or part of a non-kosher animal. The incense has the power to transform. Like we said, the whole incense itself is like medicine. It's sam, it's poison, but it could be a poison of life, it could be an elixir, it could be a poison of death. You have the power to transform something that has no hard and scentless and tasteless on its own and transform it into the most powerful scent. It has the power to transform the 11, to take the 11 and to transform it into holiness. And that's why one of the ingredients had to be chelbana. Chelbana has a terrible smell. But mixed together with the other ingredients, that's what the rabbis say. If you don't contain the rasha in it, then it's not acceptable. Just like the Ketoret had the chelbana. But the idea of the 11 is, this is the power to transform, to take the negative and turn it into positive, to take something unpleasant and to transform it into something pleasant. To take this powerful force, this spark, which hovers over the klipa, which is the 11, and to completely transform, that the sin itself becomes a mitzvah. Literally transform, that it becomes holy. Because when you get to the inner heart and you sense the reality of Hashem from the inside out, that ein oid milvade, there's no other reality but Hashem, then everything is really godly. Everything is godly. The negative itself really is all godly. There's nothing else. It's not two separate things that I'm trying to bring close together. But you realize there is nothing else. All there is Hashem. So everything is really at the core and at the essence is really godly. So what appears to be negative, reality is it's really all godly. And if you're able to approach it and experience it from the inside out, from the incense, when you're alone with Hashem, there's no one else besides you and Hashem, then you're able to elevate even the 11 crowns of impurity, and you're able to transform. And not only stop the death, but it becomes an elixir, it becomes a medicine of life, revives, restores, and that's the power of the Ketoret.